Dear students, welcome back. In this video, we are going to solve the previous year's questions of GATE examination, all of 2 marks of the chapter permeability of the soil. Let's start with our first question. And this question is very important because it has got multiple concepts involved in it. And along with that, I'm taking this question from IAS Master who has solved this question wrongly. So what mistakes he has committed, I'll also tell you, and what would be the correct solution according to me, that also I'll be telling you. So let's first read the question and try to understand it. So the question says that water flows in the upward direction in a tank through 2.5-meter thick sand layer as shown in the figure. So first of all, there is a sand layer. I have marked it here. This is a sand layer. It is 2.5-meter thick. And what is going on? Water is flowing in the upward direction. So here is the inward flow of water. The water is entering through a filter media, then through a sand, and then it is going in the upward direction. So this line is clear to us. Let's understand the second line. The void ratio and the specific gravity of the sand are 0.58 and 2.7 respectively. So these are the data given to you. So let me write the data first. Void ratio is how much? Void ratio is given as 0.58 and specific gravity is given to you as 2.7. Now, the sand is fully saturated. Of course, if the water is flowing through the sand is fully saturated. The unit weight of water is 10 kilonewton per meter cube. Gamma W is given to you as 10 kilonewton per meter cube. Okay, this is the unit weight of water given to you. And we have to find out the effective stress in kilopascal rounded off to the 2 decimal places at point A located 1 meter above the base of the tank is. So we have to find what is the effective stress here at this point. Okay, it is 1 meter above the tank, and there are other data given to you in the form of the figure. Now you have to find out the effective stress in kilopascal rounded off to the 2 decimal places at point A located 1 meter above the base of the tank. Now, so other data are given to you in the form of figure, and what we have to find out, what is the effective stress working at this point, which is located 1 meter from the base of the sand. Okay, now you know that effective stress, how to calculate the effective stress is equals to total stress minus the pore water pressure. But this case is true when the water is in static position. That means it is not flowing in the downward or in the upward direction. Okay, but if the water is flowing, then the effective stress, we do not calculate it like this. The effective stress, what do we do? Effective stress is calculated as gamma submerged of the soil into height, whatever height is acting, minus or plus minus Iz gamma W. This is the formula by which we calculate the effective stress. Okay, gamma submerged into height plus Iz gamma W. If anyone is having any doubt regarding this, from where we are getting this formula and anything, they can go through my lecture on seepage pressure, and that will help you out. The link of that lecture, you will get it in the description box as well as in the I button. Now, so basically we have to calculate the effective stress here. So the stress in this position is due to the sand above it, and this will increase the effective stress, while there is a upward flow of water, and that will decrease the effective stress, right? So we just have to find out what is minus Iz gamma W. Why minus? Because the water is flowing in the upward direction and it is decreasing the effective stress. Okay, now our next task is to find out what is gamma submerged. So how to find out gamma submerged? Gamma submerged, if you know, is gamma saturated of the soil minus gamma W, is it not? Now our next task is to find out what is gamma saturated. Okay, so let's find out what is gamma saturated of the soil. How to find out? These data are given to you, and we can make use of this data to find out what is gamma saturated of the soil. gamma saturated of the soil is equals to gamma W G plus ES by 1 plus E, right? And if it is saturated condition, then the value of degree of saturation is 1, right? Degree of saturation is 1. Then this will be gamma W G plus E by 1 plus E, and you know what is G, what is E, and you also know what is gamma W. Then we can easily find out what is the value of gamma saturated, right? So now let's calculate what is gamma saturated. This implies gamma saturated is gamma W. The value of gamma W is 10. It's given to you. What is the value of G? G is 2.7 plus E. E is 0.58 by 1 plus E. So 1 plus 0.58. So this will give you 10 into 2.7 plus 0.58. Let me just add it and tell you the answer. 2.7 plus 0.58, it's 3.28 by 1.58, and that will give you 20.76 kilonewton per meter cube. Why kilonewton per meter cube? Because the value of gamma W was given in kilonewton per meter cube. Now once you got gamma saturated, let's calculate gamma W, gamma submerged, right? Let's calculate gamma submerged. So the value of gamma submerged is equals to gamma saturated minus gamma W. So gamma saturated is how much? It is 20.76 minus gamma W is how much? It's 10. So now what we are getting, it is 10.76 kilonewton per meter cube. So our first task is done. So this is the first task, to find out what is gamma submerged. So we know now we know what is gamma submerged. Okay, now at this point A, now the concept comes. At this point A, which soil is putting pressure at this point? The soil which is above this point is putting pressure. Okay, all these soils are putting pressure above this. Okay, so what is H now? This H, what is that now? H, we have to find out. H is not 2.5. We are not going to take 2.5 as H, right? If you do that, that will be a blunder. So this is what GATE wants to know. If it you have to find out at this point, not at this point. So the value of H will be taken as this 2.5 minus 1, that is 1.5 meter. So 2.5 minus 1, that is 1.5 meter. 1.5 meter. Why is it 1.5 meter? Because all the soil above point A is putting pressure on point A, right? So this will give you the first term, gamma submerged into H. Now we have to subtract Iz gamma W. Now let's understand what is I, what is Z, what is gamma W. Okay, our next task is to find out what is I. I is the hydraulic gradient. Okay, now what is hydraulic gradient? It is the head loss by the total height of the soil. Height of the soil in which head is getting lost, right? So total, let me write down like this, head loss by total length of soil. So now how we will calculate the total head loss? It is not given in the data, but it is given in the figure. Now let's try to understand the figure. What is the head loss? See, there are two piezometers inserted. No, there is one piezometer inserted here. This is the piezometer inserted. Let me mark in blue color. This is the piezometer inserted. Okay. Now here, the height of the water is up till here. Now, the height of the water is not given from the base. It is not given from the datum. Okay. It is given from this point. This is the height of water and it is given as 1.2 meters. So now the initial height of the water, if you consider it here, let it be x, whatever it is, x is the height of the water, initial height. Now the final height of water is how much? If after coming out from the soil, the final head of water is how much? You see here, the final head of water is, suppose y. This is the final head of water. This is the final head of water. Okay, this is the final, because after that it is overflowing. Okay, so this is the final head of water. So now you see the initial head of water is x and the final head of water is y. So what is the head loss? Head loss is x minus y. Okay, head loss is x minus y, and that is given to you in the form of figure. This 1.2, see, it is the difference between the initial head and the final head, that is given to you, 1.2 meter. So this 1.2 meter is what? Head loss. I hope you understood how to read the diagram. And why is this standpipe the initial head? Because it is connected with the inlet of the water, right? When the water was entering in the soil, so at that point we are checking the head. So this is the initial head, and the final head of water is this. Okay, so now you know the initial head, you know the final head, and now you know the difference. So you know the head loss. So head loss is how much? It's 1.2 meter, and that 1.2 meter of head loss is taking place by traveling how much inside the soil. Okay, so the total height of the soil is 2.5 meter, right? So total length of the soil, this head loss is taking place by the water while traveling 2.5 meters inside the soil. So the total length of the soil will be 2.5 meters. This will give you the hydraulic gradient, and 1.2 divided by 2.5, it's 0.48, right? So this is done. Now we have got I. Now what is the value of Z? See, what is Z here? Z is the distance traveled by the water in the soil at the point on which we have to calculate the effective stress. Okay, distance, what is Z? Z is the distance traveled by water in the soil. It is not the total distance. Okay, distance of the point. Okay, distance traveled by the water, let me write it down. Distance traveled by water in the soil at the point of calculation of effective stress, point of calculation of effective stress. So now you see in which direction the water is traveling. It is traveling in the upward direction. Okay, so from it is entering in this way, and it is covering a distance of how much? 1 meter before point A. Okay, so here Z will be 1 meter. Z will be 1 meter and not 2.5 meters, because there is a high chance that people will commit mistake that it is either 2.5 meters or 1.5 meter IZ. It is not dependent, it is not compulsory that we take Z from the top to the bottom. No, it is not like that. Z is the distance traveled by the water in the soil at the point of calculation of effective stress along the direction of water. Okay, along the direction of water. It is very important. Along the direction of flow. Along the direction of flow. So if the water is traveling in the upward direction, the value of Z will be 1. Okay. So now we got what is I, what is Z, and we know what is gamma W. It is given in the question itself. It is 10 kilonewton per meter cube. Okay. So now we have calculated everything. So we know gamma submerged, we know height, we know IZ gamma W. So we'll put everything in this equation and we'll find out what is the value of effective stress at point A. Let's do that. So effective stress at point A is equals to gamma submerged into height h. Height h we are taking from the top minus Iz gamma W. So these many concepts were involved in here. So gamma submerged of the soil, we have calculated it, and it was 10.76 kilonewton per meter cube. So 10.76 kilonewton per meter cube. What was h? H was the height of the soil above point A. Okay, because it was increasing the effective stress. So it was 1.5 meter. It is 1.5 minus I. What is I? I is the hydraulic gradient, and this is the value of I, 0.48. What is the value of Z? Z, I have told you, the distance traveled by the water in the soil at the point of the calculation of the effective stress along the direction of flow. So Z is 1 meter. And gamma W again is given to you as 10, right? So let's calculate this. So that will give you 11.34 kilonewton per meter cube. Kilonewton per meter cube. Now, we know that we have to find the answer in kilopascals. Okay, so 1 pascal is how much? 1 pascal is 1 newton per meter square. This is not per meter cube, it is per meter square. Okay, so 1 pascal is how much? 1 newton per meter square. So this is, we can write this as 11.34 kilopascal. Okay, so the answer we have got in kilopascal, and we have to put it in, rounded off to the two correct decimal places. It is 11.34 according to me, 11.34. Okay, I've tried my best to put in all the concepts without any mistakes. What mistake the IES master has done? They have not used this formula, rather they have used this formula, total stress minus the pore water pressure. But this is not used when the water is in flowing condition. This is only used when the water is static. Okay, I hope you understood this, and let's move on to the next question. Now the next question states that the soil profile at the site up to a depth of 10 meter is shown in the figure. So in the figure there is a soil profile up to a depth of 10 meters. So 4 plus 3 plus 3 is 10 meters. The soil is preloaded with a uniform surcharge of 70 kilonewton per meter square at the ground level. So there is a surcharge over here. The soil unit weight of respective layers is shown in the figure. So unit weight is given to you. The sand bulk unit weight is given to you. For silty sand, the saturated unit weight is given to you, and for the clay, the saturated unit weight is given to you. So these are the data given to you. Consider the unit weight of water as 9.81 kilonewton per meter cube, and assume that the surcharge is applied instantaneously. This is very important point, that the surcharge is applied instantaneously. Immediately after preloading, the effective stress in kilopascals at points P and Q are respectively. So points in P and Q, I haven't mentioned it here. Let me mention it. So this is point P and this is point Q. At these points we have to find out what the effective stress is. Okay, effective stresses at the points P and Q. Now one important point is here, the surcharge Q is applied instantaneously. The moment it is applied, we have to find out the effective stress at points P and Q the moment the surcharge is applied. Okay, so for that there is an important concept. The forces or the stresses take time to get transferred, because it is a grain to grain transfer. From the soil particles, it takes a certain time to get transmitted from the upper layer to the downward layer, down layer. Okay, it cannot be immediately transferred. So if we are finding out the instantaneous stress, the moment when the stress is applied, we have to find the effective stress, then we will not consider this surcharge. Okay, because it will not get transmitted. Now without this surcharge, we have to calculate what is the effective stress. So effective stress at point P. Okay, let's calculate the effective stress at point P. So effective stress at point P will be total stress minus the pore water pressure. Okay, and you see here the ground table is below point P. It starts with after point P. Okay, so there is no pore water pressure due to the water, because there is no groundwater table at point P, right? So all the stresses will be due to the weight of the soil only, and in this column there is no water. No water means no groundwater. Okay, so the effective stress at point P will be that equals to the total stress, and total stress is equals to simply gamma z, right? What is gamma? Gamma is the bulk unit weight of the sand. So 18 into what is the height? Height is 3. So 18 into 3, 8 3s is 24, carry over, so it is 54 kilonewton per meter square, right? So kilonewton per meter square can be written as 54 kilopascals, right? Kilopascals. So this is at point P. So once we have found out point P, option number D is the correct option. But for the sake of teaching you, let's do this for point Q as well. So let me just rub it and do it for point Q. So for Q's, effective stress at point Q will be total stress at point Q minus pore water pressure. Okay, so let's examine this point Q. So for this point Q, the stress will be due to this column, and it contains two soils, right? There are two soils. So this soil up to here will will be due to the bulk unit weight of sand. So 18 into 3 plus this will again contribute to the total stress, that is 20 into 4. And now we have to subtract the pore water pressure. So pore water pressure is how much? We have to take the effective unit weight of water as 9.81. So 9.81. And what is the height of the water column at this point Q? The height of the water column above Q, point Q, is up till this much, right? So it is 9.81 into 4, right? We have to take the height of the liquid column and not the entire height. So if we solve this, we are going to get the answer. So 18 into 3 is how much? 18 into 3 is equals to 54, plus 24 is 80, minus 9.81 into 4 will give you 39.24. And if you solve this, so it's 54 plus 80 minus 39.24, you will get the answer as 94.76. 94.76 kilo Newton per meter square or kilopascals. So 95, that is the correct answer. Okay, I hope you understood. This is the very easy question, but there was an important concept that we will not take into account this Q, because we are calculating the effective stress immediately after applied load. Okay, now let's move on to the next question. This is the next question, and the question states that a constant head permeability test was conducted on a soil specimen under the hydraulic gradient of 2.5. So hydraulic gradient is given as 2.5. So hydraulic gradient means what? It is the head loss by the total length of the soil, right? Total head loss by total length of the soil. The soil specimen has a specific gravity of 2.5. Specific gravity of the soil specimen is 2.65, and the saturated water content of 20%. So what is the water content? W is equals to 20%. Okay. The coefficient of permeability of the soil is 0.1 centimeter per second. So coefficient of permeability is given as 0.1 centimeter per second. The seepage velocity in centimeter per second rounded off to the 2 decimal places through the soil specimen is. So we have to find out what is seepage velocity. Okay, though I haven't taught you about the seepage velocity, I'll tell you how to calculate this. Soon I'll make a video on seepage velocity and tag it here, so you will be able to understand what is seepage velocity. Meanwhile, let me solve this. So according to Darcy's law, velocity is given by what? K into I, right? K into Y. This is an important formula that you should remember. V is equals to Ki, and this V is not the seepage velocity. It is known as the discharge velocity. Okay. So let's find out what is the discharge velocity. So discharge velocity is equals to K into I. So V is given, K is given to you as 0.1 centimeter per second into I is given to you as 2.5. So this will give you 0.25 centimeter per second. So this is the velocity of the water coming out from the soil. Now we have to find the seepage velocity, and the formula for seepage velocity is discharge velocity by porosity. Okay, this is the formula for seepage velocity. Seepage velocity is discharge velocity by porosity. This you should remember. So we have to find out what is porosity now. So for finding out porosity, what is given to us? It is G and W is given to us. So we know that ES is equals to WG, right? It is given that the saturated water content of 20%. This means the soil is saturated. Okay. So degree of saturation is what? Degree of saturation is 1 now. So we have to find out E. What is E now? E is equals to WG, right? So W is 0.20 and G is 2.65. Now, once we solve this, we are going to find out what is the value of E. 0.2 into 2.65 will give you 0.53, right? 0.53. This is the value of E. Now we know from our old school formula that porosity is equals to E by 1 plus E, right? So porosity will be how much? Porosity will be E by 1 plus E, 0.53, 0.53 by 1.53, and this will give you porosity as 0.53 by 1.53, and this will be 0.346, right? 346. Now we have to find out the seepage velocity. Seepage velocity will be discharge velocity, that we have already found out, that is 0.25 by porosity. Porosity is now 0.346. Now you solve this and you will get the answer. What is the answer of seepage velocity? It's 2.5 by 0.346, and this will give you 0.722. Okay, so we have rounded off to 2 decimal places we have to find out. So it is 0.72, just 0.72 centimeter per second. I hope this is clear to you. Now let's move on to the next question. The next question states that permeability tests were carried out on the samples collected from 2 different layers as shown in the figure. So permeability tests were conducted. The relevant horizontal and vertical coefficients of permeability are indicated for each layer. So we are given with the horizontal permeability, we are given with the vertical permeability of the soil. Okay, we have to find out what is the ratio of equivalent horizontal to vertical coefficients of permeability is. So we have to first find out what is horizontal equivalent permeability, then we have to find out what is vertical equivalent permeability, and then we have to find out its ratio between the horizontal equivalent and the vertical equivalent. So for that, I have not taught you about how to derive these formulas. Soon I'll make a video on that also. Right now, let's simply go into the formula. Equivalent for horizontal equivalent is equals to, it's K1 H1 plus K2 H2 plus how many layers are there, that number of Kn Hn, suppose there are n number of layers, by H1 plus H2 plus Hn. Okay, this is for horizontal equivalent. Okay, so what is it? It is the horizontal permeability into what is the height of the soil, second horizontal permeability into the height of the soil by the total height of the soil. Okay, what is K1 here? We have to find out the horizontal component. So K1 will be 4.4 into 10 to the power minus 3 into H1. What is the height of this layer? Is 3 meters. Okay, we have just 2 layers. So now K horizontal, we have to find out for the horizontal component. It is 6 into 10 to the power minus 1 into H2. It is 4 by H1 plus H2. So it is 3 plus 4, right? So it will be, we are going to get, let me just solve it quickly and tell you the answer. It's 4.4 into 10 to the power minus 3 into 3 plus 6 into 10 to the power minus 1 and into 4 by 4 plus 3, and that's equals to, you will get 0.3447 and in meter per second. Okay, because it is the permeability, so permeability is calculated in meter per second. So this we have found out. Similarly, let's find out what is the vertical equivalent. So vertical equivalent, for that the formula is, for vertical equivalent the formula is H1 plus H2 plus how many, the number of layers is there, Hn, by H1 by K1, H1 by K1 plus H2 by K2 plus whatever is the number of layers Hn by Kn. Okay, and we have to take the vertical component for this. So what is the height of first layer? It is 3 meters. What is the height of next layer? It is 4 meters, right? So h1 plus h2, it will be 3 by 4, h1 by k1. So h1 is 3 by k1 is 4 into 10 to the power minus 3, right? 3 by 4 into 10 to the power minus 3 plus it will be 4 by what is the vertical component? 5.5 into 10 to the power minus 1. Okay, 5.5 into 10 to the power minus 1. Okay, so it is as simple as that. Let's solve this and we'll find out what is the answer. So 4 plus 3 is 7 by, it is 3 by 4 into 10 to the power minus 3, then plus sign, then again 4 by 5.5 into 10 to the power minus 1. Okay, now let's find out what is the answer. Of course, you have to use the calculator for calculating such things. So it's 9.24 into 10 to the power minus 3. Okay, now we have to find the ratio between these. So 0.3447. So now K horizontal equivalent by K vertical equivalent is equals to 0.3447, 0.3447 by what is the value of this vertical equivalent? It is 9.24 into 10 to the power minus 3, and that will give you the answer as, let me just calculate it once again, 0.3447 by 9.24 into 10 to the power minus 3, and that will give you the answer as 37.305. Whatever is the answer, 37.305. So 37.30 I'm getting. The closest answer to this is 37.29. Okay, so this option is the correct option. Now let's move on to the next question. The next question states that a constant head permeability tests were performed on two soil specimens S1 and S2. The ratio of the height of the two specimen LS1 is to LS2 is 1.5. The ratio of the diameter of the specimen is DS1 is to DS2 is 0.5, and the ratio of the constant heads HS1 is to HS2 is applied on the specimen is 0.2. If the discharge from both the specimen is equal, the ratio of the permeability of the soil of the specimen KS1 is to KS2 is, we have to find out this. Now this is a confusing question. So first of all, in constant head permeability test, the formula which we use is Q is equals to KIA, if you remember, or you can say that Q is equals to K into I means head loss by the length of the soil, right, into A. Or you can say that K is equals to how much? It's Q into L by L is the length of the soil into H, it is the head loss into area, QL by HA, right? Now we have to find out what is KS1 by KS2. We have to find out this, right? So for that, can I write it as QS1 LS1 by HS1, that is the head loss of specimen 1, area of specimen 1, whole divided by QS2 LS2 by HS2 AS2, right? So if you solve this a little bit, it is QS1 LS1 by HS1 AS1 into, let's flip this, so HS2 AS2 by QS2 and LS2, isn't it? Now let's see what are the things which are given to us. A constant head permeability test was performed on two soil specimens S1 and S2. The ratio of the height of the two specimens LS1 and LS2 is 1.5. So we are given as LS1 by LS2 is 1.5. So let's rearrange this. Okay, can I write it as QS1 by QS2 into LS1 by LS2? I'm just rearranging this. Okay, head loss HS2 by HS1 into AS2 by AS1, right? So we are given with LS1 by LS2, it's 1.5, right? So the ratio of the diameter of the specimen is 0.5. So diameter of the specimen is given to us, not the area. What is the area? If it is circular in shape, area is equals to pi by 4 d square, right? So diameters, the ratio of the diameters are given to us and not the areas. So area can be written as, I'm just writing it here, pi by 4 will be get cancelled out. ds1 by ds2 will be left with ds1 by ds2 whole square. Okay, pi by 4 and pi by 4 will get cancelled out. And the ratio of the constant heads to 2 given to you. Okay, so and discharge from both the specimen is equal. So qs1 is equals to qs2, right? So this qs1 is equals to qs2. So their ratio will be equals to 1 into, what is ls1 by ls2? It is given to you as 1.5. See here, it is given to you as 1.5. Now what is hs2 by hs1? It is given to you as hs1 is to hs2 is 2. So then hs2 by hs1 will be how much? It will be 1 by 2, right? Now this area, it is the area which we know, but in the question it is given as the diameter. Now I have told you area is equals to pi by 4 d square. That means we are given with this ratio. This ratio we know. So it is 0.5 whole square, right? Now if you solve this, okay, there is another one mistake I have done. It is as2 by as1. So it will be ds2 by ds1. Okay, ds2 by ds1. So and ds1 by ds2 is given to us as 0.5. Then we'll be left with it will be 1 by 0.5 to the power 2. Now you solve this. It will be 1.5 by 2 into 1 by 0.5 into 1 by 0.5. So now it's simple. So 2 into 0.5 will give you 1, and 1 into 0.5 will give you 0.5, right? So 1.5 by 0.5, and this will be gone. It will give you finally answer as 3. So this is the answer. 3 is the answer. I hope you understood. Those who didn't understand, kindly go through the question once again, and let's move on to the next question. And before moving on to the next question, it's my humble request from all of you to please like and share my lectures with your peer groups so that it can reach as many people as possible. Now let's see what the next question says. The next question says that the three soil samples S1, soil 2 and soil 3, each of 150-meter long and 100 millimeter in diameter, are placed in series in a constant head flow setup as shown in the figure. So here is the figure. The length, there are three soils, soil 1, soil 2 and soil 3, and the length of each soil is how much? It is 150 mm. Okay, so this is 150, this is again 150, and this is again 150 mm. So and the diameter of the soil is given as 100 mm. This is the diameter of the soil. It is 100 for all the three soils. Suitable screens are provided at the boundaries of the specimen to keep them intact. So the soils are not mixing with each other. Why? Because there is a suitable screens provided at these soils. Okay. The value of the coefficient of permeability of the soil 1, soil 2 and soil 3 are. So let me write this down. Coefficient of permeability of the soil 1, K1, I am writing it as, it is 0.01 centimeter per second. For soil 2, the coefficient of permeability is 0.003 centimeter per second. So soil is water is moving very slowly in soil 2, and in then soil 3 is 0.01 0.03 centimeter per second. Okay, these are the permeability coefficients of permeability given to you. The value of H in the setup is, so what we have to find out, we have to find out the value of H, that is what is the height of the water in this piezometer. Now what's given to us? See, the initial height of the water, or the initial head of water you can say, is 560 millimeter. Here it is given as the final head of water. So initial head from this line it is given to you. Okay, and the final head 100 mm from this line it is given to you. Okay, so it's very important that you should understand how to calculate the head loss. So if I'll tell you the total head loss is how much. Initial head is 560 and the final head is 100. It is very obvious that you will do 560 minus 100, that is 460 is the head loss, but it's wrong. Why is it wrong? Because you have to fix the datum. You have to see this 560 is from where. From where? Is it from this level? Is it from this level? What is the level from which we are calculating this 560? So this 560 we are calculating it from here. This is the datum. Okay, this is the datum. So 560 from this datum is the initial head, and the final head is this datum. So if we see this datum, initially it was 560 and finally it's 0 if we consider it as datum. So the total head loss here is how much? The total head loss is 560 and not 460. Okay, so it's very important that you calculate the head loss correctly. Now how to solve this question? There is a certain head loss from while there is certain head loss in the water if it is traveling from soil 1. So this is marked by this one. This is the head loss initial. Actually this is the head loss. Final head is this one and the initial head was this one. So this is the head loss now. And secondly, it is coming at this level after passing from soil 2. So this is the head loss again, and then from H to it is coming back to this position. So this is the third head loss. So every time the water passes through the soil mass, it is experiencing certain loss in head. So how to calculate that? We are supposed to calculate that. So what remains constant? Head is getting lost. So what remains constant? The constant is Q. Q means the discharge. Whatever is the discharge taking place in this soil, the same discharge will take place in this soil, and the same discharge will take place in this soil. The discharge remains constant in all the three soils because they are connected in series. So Q1, discharge from soil 1, must be equals to Q2, must be equals to Q3. Now there is a famous formula that you should know, is that Q is equals to KIA. Okay, KIA. This is one of the important formulas that you should know. Discharge is equals to, K is coefficient of permeability into hydraulic gradient into area. Area, that means the cross sectional area of the soil. So from 1 and 2, let me consider this Q1 is equals to Q2 is equals to Q3 as equation number 1. Okay, and this is as equation number 2. So from 1 and 2, can I write it as Q1 is equals to Q2 is equals to Q3? Can I write it as K1 I1 A1 is equals to K2 I2 head, that means the hydraulic gradient in I2, and then area 2 is equals to K3 I3 A3. Now you see here different values of K are given to us, and we also know that what is the value of I. We know that I is the hydraulic gradient, that is the head loss to the total length of the soil. Okay, length of the soil. What is I? I is the head loss in per unit length of the soil. Now let the head loss of water for soil 1 be H1. So what is the head loss? Head loss is this, the difference between the initial head and the final head. So this is H1. Okay, this is the head loss for soil 1. Now what is the head loss for soil 2? This, let's extend this. So head loss for soil 2 will be this much. That is initial head for soil 2 and the final head after soil 2 is this. So this is H2. Okay, and now what's H3? That is head loss for soil 3, right? So initial head before soil 3 and final head after soil 3. So this is H3. This is H3 or the head loss for soil 3. Now this H3 is same as H and we have to find out H. That means we have to find out H3. Okay, so if this is clear to you, let's move ahead. Can I write K1 I1? This is okay, this is for, I have written this from Q1 is equals to Q2 is equals to Q3. Okay, now can I write this KIA as K1 head loss 1 H by L1? Okay, head loss for soil 1 into length of soil 1 into area of soil 1. Okay, now similarly K2 I2 can be written as H2 by L2 into A2. Okay, now K3 same for third term as well. K3 I3 can be written as H3 by L3. Now A3. Now it's given in the question that the each soil has length of 150 millimeter and 100 millimeter in diameter. So diameter is same for all the soil. That means area is also same for the soil and length is also same for all the three soils. So we can just omit these three. We can just omit these terms, okay, because they are all same. Now let's write this as equals to X. Now can I write H1 as X by K1, right? H2 as X by K2 and H3 head loss at 3 is X by K3, right? Now you see from the figure, this H1 plus H2 plus H3, that means this is H3 plus H2 plus here H1. If you add all these three, what we will get? We will get the total head loss 560 mm. So can I form an equation like this? H1 plus H2 plus H3. It is also obvious from the head loss concept that the head loss for soil 1 plus head loss for soil 2 plus head loss for soil 3 will be equals to the total head loss. That's what I have written here. This is another equation. Now let's put this, this be equation number 3, let this be equation number 4. Putting 3 in 4, what we get? Putting 3 in 4, what we get? X by K1 plus X by K2 plus X by K3 is equals to 560, right? Or we can write it as X, let's take it as common. So 1 by K1 plus 1 by K2 plus 1 by K3 is equals to 560. Or if we want to find out what is the value of X, we can do it like this: 560 by 1 by K1 plus 1 by K2 plus 1 by K3. And we all know what is the value of K1, K2 and K3, right? It's given in the question. So if we put those values over here, we can easily find out what is the value of X now. And once we get the value of X, from this equation we can find out what is the value of H3, right? And that is what we have to find out. H3 is same as H, right? So let's do this. So let's put the values of K1, K2 and K3 over here. So X is equals to 560 by 1 by K1. So 1 by, what is K1? What is the value of K1 is 0.01, right? So 0.01 plus 1 by, what is the value of K2? It is 0.003, right? So 0.003 plus 1 by K3, and that K3 is 0.03. 0.03. Now let's put these values over here. So X is equals to, let me solve this quickly for you, and it will come out to be x is equals to 1.2. Okay, now x is 1.2. If you solve this, you will get what is the value of x. X will come out to be 1.2. Now once you get the value of x, you have to find out h3 or h. Okay, so finally h3, that is equals to h, that will be equals to 1.2, that is x by k3. Now what is the value of k3? It is 0.03, right? 0.03. This is the value of k3. Okay, so let's solve this. So you will get 120 by 3, and that will come out to be 40. So this 40 is the answer. 40 means the height of here will be 40 millimeter. That means the head after soil 2 will be 40 millimeter. And this was very important question. I hope this is clear to you. Now let's move ahead with our next question. Next question states that water flows from P to Q. So I haven't marked P or Q over here. So let me mark P and Q. What is it? So this is point P and this is point Q. So water flows from point P to point Q, okay, through two samples of soil 1 and soil 2. It's shown in the figure. There are two samples of soil having the cross-sectional area of 80 centimeters square. Area is given to you as shown in the figure. Over a period of 15 minutes, 200 ml of water was observed to pass through any cross-section. Okay, so now discharge is not given to you. What is given to you? Time is given to you and volume is given to you. Then what is discharge? What is the unit of discharge? Discharge is meter cube per second. Okay, that is how much volume of water is crossing per unit time. That is called discharge, right? So once the volume is given to you and time is given to you, you can easily find out discharge. The flow conditions can be assumed to be steady state if the coefficient of the permeability of the soil 1 is 0.02 millimeter per second, okay, and the coefficient of permeability of the soil 2 would be. So you have to find out what is the permeability of the soil 2. Now this is again a very easy question. Just now we have solved a similar question. The previous question was the similar one. Now, so we can say that the discharge 1 must be equals to discharge 2, right? From here, can I write K1 I1 into A1 is equals to K2 I2 A2, right? Or we can write K1 head loss 1 by L1 A1 is equals to K2 head loss 2 L2 A2, right? Now, what is H1 and what is H2? H1 is the head loss for soil 1 and H2 is the head loss for soil 2, but it is not given in the question. Head loss 1 is not given in the question. Head loss 2 is also not given in the question. What is given in the question is total head loss. Total head loss, can I say it is equals to H1 plus H2? That is the head loss 1 plus H2. Whatever head is getting lost from soil 1, and if you add it with the head loss for soil 2, we'll get the total head loss. And let's calculate what is the total head loss. The total head loss is the difference between the initial head and the final head. So initial head from the datum was 600 and final head from the datum is how much? 300. So the total head loss will be how much? 600 minus 300, that will be 300. Okay, now area is given as 80 centimeters square for both. So can we just cancel it out? Length of the soil is given as 150 millimeter for both. We can cancel it out, right? Now there is a problem over here. We know that K1 H1 is equals to K2 H2. We are left with this. We know the value of what is K1. We know what is the value of, we have to find out what is the value of K2. But we do not know what is H1, what is H2. We only know what is H1 plus H2, right? So first of all, we have to find out H1 or H2, either of them. Then only we can find out what is the value of K2. K2 can be found out using this equation, right? K2 is equals to K1 H1 by H2 easily. But the problem is that we do not know what is the value of H1 and H2, but we know what is the value of H1 plus H2. Now our next problem is to solve what is the value of H1 and H2. How to do that? Now again we know that Q is equals to KIA. Do we know the value of Q? Yes, we know the value of Q. It is given as 200 ml per 15 minutes. Okay, 200 ml. But here K is given in millimeter per second. Millimeter per second. So we have to somehow convert it into millimeter cube per second. Okay. So first of all, let's do that. We have to homogenize the units. So 2, it's given as 200 ml per 15 minutes, right? 15 minutes. So for converting ml, 1 ml is equals to 1 centimeter cube. Cc, 1 ml is equals to 1 centimeter cube. Okay, so this can be written as 200 centimeter cube by 15 into minutes to seconds is 60 seconds. Now we have to convert centimeter cube to millimeter cube, right? So we have to multiply it by 1000. 1 centimeter is equals to 10 millimeter, and that 1 centimeter cube is equals to 10 into 10 into 10 millimeter cube. So 15 into 60, this will give us in cube, millimeter cube per second. But why I have converted this? We have converted this because the unit of K is given in millimeter per second, and the units must be homogeneous. Like you cannot use some unit over here and the other unit over there. So in order to homogenize that, I have converted this. Now this is the value of Q. This is value of Q. Now let's find what is the value of H1. So can we write it as Q1? I am writing it as 200 into 1000, whatever it is. 2000 by 15 into 60. This is Q. What is the value of K? K means K1. I'm writing it this for first soil. Okay, I'm writing it this for the first soil. So K1 is now given to you as 0.02 millimeter per second. So 0.02 millimeter per second. What is I? It is H1 by L1. Now L1 is how much? It is 150 millimeter. So 150 into A1. So area is now 80 centimeter square. It is given to you. So 80 centimeter square, we have to convert it into millimeter square. So into 100 will give you millimeter square. Okay. So from here we have to find out what is H1. So H1 can be found out using 200 into 1000 by 15 into 60 into 150 and then divided by 0.02 into 80 into 100. If we solve this, we are going to get what is the value of H1, right? So this 100 and this 1000 will be gone by 10 times. Then let me just remove this decimal point and multiply 100 over here. So this 2 and 200 is gone now, and 15 tens is 150, and this let's say 10 6, this 10 and 10 is gone. Now this is 8 and this 10 is again gone. So we are left with 10,000. If we multiply all the numerator, it is 10,000 by 8 6 is 48. Okay, so this is H1, head loss 1. Now let's solve this. Whatever is the value, let's solve this one. 10,000 by 48, this will give you 208.33. This is the value of H1. Now let's calculate what is H2. So H2, how to calculate that? H2 is equals to total head loss. H1 plus H2 is This H1 plus H2 is total head loss, and total head loss we know is 300. So H2 will be total head loss 300 minus 208 by 208.33, right? So let me just subtract this and tell you what is the value of H2. It's 300 minus 208.33, so that is coming out to be 91.67. Now once we got the value of H1, I mean this value, and got the value of H2, this value, we can easily find out what is the value of K2, right? So let's do that. K2 is equals to K1 H1 by H2. So K2 is how much? K2 is K1 H1 by H2. Now we know all the values, right? So K1 is how much? It's given to you as 0.02 millimeter per second. So 0.02 millimeter per second. H1 is how much? H1 is 208.33. So 208.33 by H2. H2 is how much? It is 91.67. So 91.67. Now let's solve this and we'll get the answer. So 0.02 and then multiply it with 208.33 by 91.67. So it's coming out to be 0.045 millimeter per second. Millimeter per second. This is the value of K2. Okay. So expressed in millimeter per second would be the final answer is 0.045. Let me write it down. 0.045. Now let's move on to the next question and the last question of the day. So the question states that a non-homogeneous soil deposit consists of a silt layer sandwiched between the fine sand layer at the top and a clay layer below. So we have to draw the diagram first. Okay. So they are talking about a fine sand layer on the top. So this is the sand layer, suppose. Then is the silt layer, and then is the clay layer, right? So silt, this is silt layer, and this is sand layer, and this is clay layer, right? It is given in the question. The permeability of the silt layer is 10 times the permeability of the clay layer. So if the permeability of the clay layer is x, then the silt layer will be how much? 10x, right? And 1/10 the permeability of the sand layer. So the permeability of the silt layer is 1/10 of the permeability of the sand layer. So this is 1/10. So let the permeability of the sand layer be 100x. So the silt layer is 1/10 of that, right? The thickness of the silt layer is 2 times the thickness of the sand layer. So silt layer is 2 times thicker than the sand layer. So in the figure also, let me just do this. The silt layer is 2 times thicker than the sand layer. So this is the sand layer, and if this is y, this is 2y, isn't it? And 2/3 the thickness of the clay layer. So clay layer, silt layer is 2 by 3 times of clay layer, right? So 2y is equals to 2 by 3 times of clay layer. Then what is the height of clay layer? It will be simply 3y, isn't it? So this is 3y now. Now what do we have to find out actually now? The ratio of the equivalent horizontal to equivalent vertical permeability of the deposit is. So we have to find out what is the ratio of K equivalent horizontal by K equivalent vertical. This we have to find out. Okay, so let's do that. I have already told you the formulas, right, in few other questions. So first of all, we have to calculate what is K equivalent horizontal. So for K equivalent horizontal, the formula is K1 H1 K2 plus K2 H2 plus K3 H3 by H1 plus H2 plus H3, whatever is the number of layers, right? So let's calculate this first. What is K1 here? K1 is for sand. Let's take it for sand. 100x. So 100x. In our case, what is it? K1 is 100x. This is for sand into H1. What is H1 now? H1 is the height of the sand. It is Y. Now plus what is K2? K2 is 10x. That is for silt. So 10x into what is H2 now? 2y, right? Plus K3. K3 is x, and what is H3? Height of clay layer is 3y, right? By H1 plus H2 plus H3, matlab all the height of 3. So y plus 2y, that is 3y plus 3y. This will give us 6y, okay? So y plus 2y plus 3y. So now let's see what is the answer. It is first of all 100xy plus 20xy plus 3xy. Now for the denominator it is 6y. So let's solve it again. It is 100 plus 20, okay, 123 xy by 6y. Y and y will get cancelled out, and so 6 2s are 12, then 0, and then 6 5s is 30, right? So, and this is the equivalent for horizontal equivalent, okay? This is K equivalent for horizontal one. So for K equivalent for vertical, the formula is H1 plus H2 plus H3. That means all the heights first, then H1 by K1 plus H2 by K2 plus H3 by K3, right? So same thing we are going to do here. H1 plus H2 plus H3 is y plus 2y plus 3y. So it is, let me use another color. So it's y plus 2y plus 3y. These are the heights. Then y by, what is K1? K1 is 100x, right? So y by 100x plus 2y by, what is the permeability for silt layer? It is 10x. So 10x now plus 3y by x, I guess. Yeah, clay is x. Okay. Now we have to solve this. It will be again 6y by, let's take what is the LCM. LCM will be 100x. So it will be y plus, it is 10 times, so 20y plus, it will be 100 times, so 300y. Okay. Now let's solve this further. It is 6y into 100y by, sorry, 100x. It is not y, it is 100x by 300 plus 20 plus 1. So 321y. Okay. Now this y and y will get cancelled out, and we will be left with 600x by 321. So this is what, this is our K equivalent for vertical. Now what do we have to find out? We have to find out the ratio of the equivalent horizontal and equivalent vertical permeability. So first of all, what is equivalent or horizontal permeability? It was 20.5x, right? So 20.5x. What is the permeability for the vertical direction? It is 600 by 321. Okay. So 600 by 321x, right? Yes. So x and x will be gone again, and we will be left with 20.5 into 321 by 600. So let's solve this using a calculator and let me tell you the answer. So 20.5 into 321 by 600 will give you 10.96. 10.9675. So whatever you have to find out, how many, you can write it as 10.97 as well. So this is the required ratio. With this, we have completed the lecture. I hope you enjoyed it and it's useful for you. If yes, then please do like and follow me for more, and you can follow me in the Telegram channel for more updates, the link of which you will get in the description box. And don't forget to share this lecture with your peer group. Bye bye and have a nice day.